and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. I'm Michael Hamflett from WhatCulture, and I'm joined by Phil Chambers from WhatCulture to discuss everything that happened on last night's show. But first, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure to subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling wherever you get your podcasts from. Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube for daily wrestling podcasts, where we not only preview and review AEW Dynamite, but also AEW Collision, Raw, SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0. We have pay-per-views, premium and live events, wrestler interviews, roundtables, and a round of the week complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on WrestleCulture. More on a very special edition of that coming later in this podcast. But Phil, before we plug that, let's talk a little bit from the top about last night's AEW Dynamite. Not just the show in general, but to get you on to talk about the show. Where are you at with AEW in general as we head on the road to All In?
I'm very excited about All In.
Yeah.
I think All In is shaping up to be an incredible card, and I think it's going to be a much better show than it was last year. Mm-hmm. I think they're going all out for All In to make it a really great card, and I think it's got the potential of being one of the best wrestling shows of the year, if not the best. But right now with AEW TV, it feels like they're kind of treading water a little bit for me.
Yeah,
because they've kind of peaked early with a lot of the storylines, and now they're just realizing they've still got quite a bit of time left before All In.
Yeah.
And it feels like they just need a little bit of escalation on something to keep the interest going. Like the Tony Storm, MARIAH May stuff is probably the best example of it. It was they had that amazing peak with the heel turn, but they've kind of felt it's been hard for them to capitalize on it since as much.
Yeah, it's always easier for wrestling when there's a big destination, not just for the company at large, but for all the individual programs and feuds and stuff, because you've always got something to point towards. It becomes your organization's North Star, doesn't it, for the duration of the build. And to that end, Dynamite of late has been on a real upswing. I would say everything post Forbidden Door, which almost felt like an inconvenience, cleared the way, and we could start looking forward to Wembley. And as you point out, and I completely agree, the card on paper looks amazing. Got better as a result of this edition of Dynamite.
Yep.
But maybe, unfortunately for you, possibly, this felt like the first week in this post-Forbidden Door period where they did have to hit pause a little bit on some of the big stuff.
They had a couple of big shows, obviously, with the anniversary episode of Dynamite and Blood and Guts and things. So it's obviously going to be, it's not going to hit those heights because it's not those massive shows, and you can't do that every week because it doesn't work like that. You can't just keep doing that. So it just felt like this one just felt like it was sort of treading water a little bit just to get to the next bit. Yeah,
well, I mean, speaking of getting to the next bit, we go in hot with this Dynamite. It was straight to the ring where it was going to be MJF versus Kyle Fletcher, which of course exists as a result of the Collision promos that set up that if Kyle Fletcher could win tonight, he would get a shot at MJF's American title next week, which could obviously change the match of All In against Will Ospreay. This is non-title in the meantime, but Don Callis is still there on commentary to support his Callis family man. MJF goes right to the floor to start and takes the microphone to cut a promo to say that he only wants to get in there if Kyle Fletcher is willing to lock up with him like a real wrestler. Kyle Fletcher stands back a bit, MJF gets in the ring and immediately kicks him low to get the match going properly.
Old school heat start.
Yeah,
match
very much. It was almost like that old school Memphis stuff, which tied in quite nicely with the style of the main event match we got at the end of the show. And so much of the story here is about Kyle Fletcher trying to regain the advantage and hit the pile driver, hit his version of the tombstone on MJF. So there's a couple of attempts to get it, but it's a little bit too early. MJF manages to sort of wriggle out of things, and then he targets the arm at all costs. He works the arm. Fletcher's having to sell it. MJF starts cranking away. He gets him with a really nice sort of old Rocky Maivia shoulder breaker to further damage the arm. He wrenches on him with an armbar again. Fletcher sporadically makes comebacks, manages to get MJF out to the floor where he hits a big dive onto the outside, and he takes MJF down again, but this time MJF has managed to counter one of Fletcher's attack with a drop toe hold in at the barricade, where yet again Fletcher kind of goes shoulder first. MJF misses one of his own charges though, and again after a top rope elbow, Fletcher is once again trying for the power driver, but this time MJF's able to hit him with an Alabama slam and take back over. Ultimately, they find themselves both back in the ring and do kind of a New Japan strong style exchange that I guess has been co-opted by Will Ospreay now, to the fact where they just trade in big moves and nobody wants to sell until you end up with a double down. They're screaming in each other's faces, and it results in Fletcher being the one to kind of win that war of attrition with a ginormous clothesline. He picks MJF up and does the snake eyes, but into the middle turnbuckle. Always looks way more brutal than the top one, which point Taz calls it Snake Eyes Jones. But when he goes for the tombstone from the corner, MJF is once again able to wriggle free. Finally, Fletcher manages to get the tombstone, but it only gets 2. MJF's amazing at that, like 2.99 kick out. The fans are really with it at this point. And Don Callis, seeing potentially that was Fletcher's best chance at winning, leaves the commentary table and goes to distract the referee and throw the screwdriver in to Kyle Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher's holding the screwdriver. It's a bit Shawn Michaels staring at your hands. What do I do sort of thing. He elects to throw the screwdriver away and try and win clean. But in that moment, MJF is able to get a low blow while Callis still has the referee. The referee turns back round to find Fletcher in the corner. MJF sets up at this point like a condescending kangaroo kick rather than going for the big babyface version of it, and hits the brainbuster for the win. About like 17 minutes in, this went. After the match, we see Will Ospreay, who had been watching the match on the screen backstage, try and come out to help Fletcher as MJF does the post-match beating with a beautiful diamond ring. But the door has been blocked. Somebody has put a crate in the way of the door. Will Ospreay is eventually able to push free and come out and make the save right as MJF was about to hit Kyle Fletcher with the Tiger Driver 91. He's able to chase him off. But at that point, Will Ospreay, wearing a white T-shirt nicely so that Fletcher's blood can be on it, cradles the injured and bloodied Fletcher as Don Callis leans over asking where he was the entire time. Your thoughts on the match and the post-match angle?
I really enjoyed this match. Really, really hot start to Dynamite. I think it was odd, this match. Was it just me? But it was all kind of backwards. Like the heat, like MJF was taking the heat.
Yeah.
But like Fletcher was doing it in a babyface style.
Yeah.
But it was like MJF got the hope spots. Like it was all like completely wrong. Like apart from like the kind of the shine at the beginning, after that everything was kind of flipped on its head, and like the extended heat went to the babyface, and MJF was getting all the hope spots. Yeah, it felt like a really strange dynamic.
He thought if he could hit his big move, he could beat him. So it was like, I've got to stay on top of him as long as I possibly can. Yeah.
So it naturally, it made Kyle Fletcher look amazing because he was beating up a champ for ages throughout this match, and it was very Kyle Fletcher match in which he gets his stuff in. He makes sure he gets his stuff in. But it was really good fun, really like fast paced. I just really enjoyed it as the match. In terms of the like post match stuff, obviously makes sense. Like building towards All In, you've got to like do something for Ospreay and MJF. The Don Callis stuff has never really hit for me. It's always felt tagged on a little bit and like not in the right place, like especially the way they debuted Ospreay, like in the crowd reaction to him, like he became an instant babyface, and it's just been a weird ripple that I don't think they've needed at all in this sort of Ospreay run. So for me, that stuff has always fell a little bit flat, and I don't quite get it. I don't know where they're going with it. I don't know what the point in it is. But at least like the beat down from MJF, and obviously wearing the white T-shirt and getting Kyle, like holding Kyle in his arms while he's getting his blood all over his T-shirt is a great visual for like video packages for All In and things like that.
And it felt very much like Callis had been the one to block the door to present Ospreay as a bad friend in order to be the wedge between the two. When all this MJF is done with, the fact that Callis and Ospreay have never had a hard split feels like you're going to do it, and it's going to be a fight for Kyle Fletcher's soul, isn't it? So he theoretically should at least get over as a result of their severance down the line. But I thought that was quite nicely done, because it felt to me like they weren't betraying MJF and Will Ospreay, but they were looking past it too. And that's that kind of nice thing where this is now the time to be building in Ospreay's next big program when he's had his big Wembley moment, because there's going to be a natural hangover, I think. Everything about Ospreay signing has led to Wembley, and he's not going to be in the main event, but he's going to be in this huge spectacle match. And then there's always that feeling in AEW of what's next. Once the babyface presumably wins that title, what next? It feels like we're being shown the next thing.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, it's got like a thing that it's aiming towards, and it feels like they're actually telling a story with it, which stands out within some of the AEW stuff at the minute, which I quite like.
Yeah. Speaking of God-tier storytelling, we get a video package on the Bryan Danielson Jeff Jarrett main event coming up later on, and Ricky Steamboat saying he was looking forward to it. The only one dragging. But next up was Mariah May versus Viva Van. Bit weird this. So Mariah May just drills her with a drop kick and a German suplex right from the off. There's just this hard-hitting stuff that Mariah May does. Obviously, the glamour is a persona, but when she gets in there, she kicks ass. And like Viva Van gets absolutely nothing. Mariah May is just hitting her with more and more strikes. Then we go to quite a long commercial break where you're kind of forced to watch Mariah May just dominate in picture-in-picture. We even come back from the break, and the match is obviously still going on. And the commentators are saying, yeah, like it's been back and forth. And I think it was Taz maybe who said, well, it's been about 90-10 in favour of Mariah May. I'm not even sure I saw the 10 from Viva Van. She gets a roll up, I think is the closest we get to a hope spot.
There was one like reversal that then got reversed.
Yeah.
So it's like...
So Mariah May has just had all of this ultimately before she hits that kind of like running drop kick she does into the Mayday, but elects not to pin her. She picks her up and she beats her with the Storm Zero pile driver.
Yeah.
If you're in the building, I suppose this was Mariah May getting like a very, very extended squash, but it was hard not to feel like the ad break did a lot of damage to the match itself.
Yeah, it's almost like, I guess that like they wanted to keep it going so they can do the post-match angle and that not be interrupted by the ad break, but the way it was positioned on the card, I guess, if like the match had just started after the ad break or like something and you'd just do a normal squash match, you would have got the exact same...
Like a 90-second to 2-minute match rather than not that we ever want to be the podcast that says shorten these women's matches. Quite the opposite.
But it
obviously,
is a squash match.
Yeah, it's
like, there is
a formatting thing rather than a yes. Post-match angle was much needed for the Dynamite side of this rivalry, I would say. Mariah May is given a gift by a stagehand, and she opens it up, and it's a ginormous picture of her and Toni Storm embracing from Happier Times. And what she doesn't see on the back is that somebody has scrawled "Die Mariah, Die" in massive black lettering.
It actually says "The Mariah, the."
Oh, right. See, yes.
It's German, you see.
So it was actually just a nice...
No one who speaks German can be evil.
An earnest gift from Toni Storm rather than a threat. But Toni Storm is yet again appears to be in the stagehand / camera operator overalls that she had last week on Dynamite. So she's found a way to yet again jump Mariah May after they were separated on Collision. They have this kind of awesome pull-apart brawl. It's the last we see of them on Dynamite. Toni Storm holds up the sign to emphatically dish out her threat to Mariah May. But they did feature in a segment we talked about on the news today, which was a backstage brawl that also featured Hangman Page and Jeff Jarrett, where the two rivalries kind of overlapped, suggesting that for the duration of Dynamite, these two were fighting and nothing's going to...
I really like this stuff when wrestling does this, where it's just a brawl keeps going and then like later on in the show, you'll just see a little snippet of it. It's just like them fighting for 2 hours. Or
That's it, yeah.
It's so stupid, but it's great.
Assume that from town to town now, they're chasing each other like up and down the roads and stuff. I thought this was just a much needed good Dynamite week for the... Like, there's a lot of good stuff happening with this on Collision. Nothing can top the turn, realistically. Like maybe the angle of the year in AEW. Yeah. But a better week, I thought, for these two.
Yeah, for me, I think this one, it falls again into the problem I often have with AEW in that like things will happen on Collision, but then you'll never hear about it on Dynamite.
Yeah.
And it's like you're rewarding people for watching both because like then you're in the loop and you get like legitimate things that only happen here and you don't see it elsewhere. But I think a lot of that is missed when... Maybe people only watch Dynamite. I'll say it. Like, I only watch Dynamite. Yep. I have a weekend. I like to actually, do things at the weekend and not spend my entire life watching wrestling.
Yep.
So I don't watch Collision. So I had no idea. I see bits and pieces on social media, obviously, but in the grand scheme of things, that is missing.
That itself is a comment because
AEW experience.
Yeah, we talk about that with NXT. We talk how much is enough to pierce social media, how much is able to penetrate your timelines from these shows that are kind of more for the hardcores or the niche audience. I accept that, like, if an angle has escaped NXT and made it onto the timeline, it must have been worth talking about. I think Collision has sort of fallen into that vortex a little bit now.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely a happy medium between like maybe what WWE does in terms of having loads and loads and loads of recap packages. Yeah. But there's a reason they have loads and loads of recap packages. It's so the people who are watching know what's happening.
Yeah.
And I think AEW misses that quite a lot. And like you might get the odd line on commentary or something, but you never get a full explanation of what is going on. And when they cross the storylines between the different shows, stuff just gets missed.
Yeah.
And it will do for like a lot of people, I assume. So that's kind of fallen into that. But I mean, in terms of the actual angle, really, really liked it. The Die Mariah died thing was really funny. And it's just, again, another one that the turn was so hot and on such a great level, but then there's been such a big gap between that and the actual match. It feels like the timing was right at the time to do it.
Yeah.
But then they've also got a lot of TV to fill between that and the match, and now they're like, well, we need to do something.
It's ready.
Yeah.
And they've just kind of had to keep
right now,
like reheating it in the microwave because there's 6 or 7 more televisions basically, but it was. I think push comes to shove, and on that night in the stadium, people's feelings will be mostly tied to the turn. And the match, you sense it's going to deliver because like this has got the makings in terms of story and execution from the quality of the wrestlers.
Yeah.
They're chasing best AEW women's match ever.
Yeah.
I think with
yeah,
this one.
I think so too.
And like, why not? Why not?
The history they've got together,
Yeah.
I can see them pulling that off as well.
That's it. Like they're shooting for the stars on this one. We go next to somebody else that's going to feature at Wembley All In a couple of weeks. Jack Perry, he's watching clips of Blood and Guts on a series of televisions, and then he asks why take less than you can get with a beefy 5-layer burrito, a chalupa supreme, a double stack taco, and a drink for just $7. It's Lux for less. Introducing the new $7 Lux Cravings box only at Taco Bell. He then smashes up a monitor. Was this his best ever promo?
I think so, yeah. I think it was really good. I really liked Darby Allin's follow-up on it, although there was much less taco talk in the Darby Allin bit. I don't know.
This is the thing,
like
the
maybe
danger
he wasn't
of
watching.
Yeah,
and,
danger
like,
of
he didn't quite
pre-taping
know.
stuff.
Yeah.
He couldn't pass comment because he hadn't seen what Jack Perry had produced.
Yeah.
And nobody saw us going down this route of talking about tacos and burritos, but fair play for them to just out of nowhere pulling this storyline and bringing in like corporate sponsorship.
I mean, it makes sense they did the Cracker Barrel stuff. So
That's
it's
it,
like
yeah.
If maybe All In, the match is going to be sponsored by Taco Bell, and the idea is like if you chuck the opponent into a big vat of tacos, you win. Like
Ring the Taco Bell
there you go.
when the match is over. I think
Ding, little hammer, like crunch,
ding,
crunch
ding.
instead of
I
a
love
ding,
it.
ding.
We're being dickheads. There was a really, really funny tech gaff that I think affected most people watching on TBS in America.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was on every feed, but it's been shared all over the socials today. What appeared to be a quite serious and really well produced Jack Perry promo in front of a bunch of monitors, reviewing everything that's happened to him in this Darby Allin story. Blood and guts, getting set on fire, a chair shot to the head, all that sort of stuff, was interrupted by a beautiful high definition $7 Lux deal that I just wanted. So this was doubly effective, and I still really want the Jack Perry Darby Allin match.
What, like, marketing is made for, isn't it? Like,
Kind of,
advertising is built for you.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, tacos.
Yeah.
Man, one taco.
Wrestling's happening, but there's 3 things for $7.
Tacos now.
3's more than 2. Like that, yeah. You can watch it online. You can find it. It's a good bit of business. Unfortunately, interrupted by this.
Yeah, I think it's much funnier that it was interrupted because it was such a well put together, like video package. Like they'd put effort into it. Like it was in a great little setting with like loads of like old school CRT monitors and stuff with all the footage going on. It was really well shot and like kind of moody, and it was just funny. If it was just like a backstage promo, that'd be like one thing, but because it was such a well produced video package, to just be like, nah, tacos.
Eat your tacos. Darby Allin, makes it clear that he
doesn't want tacos.
He doesn't want tacos. He wants to light Darby Allin on fire and I guess put him in a taco. He wants him to show up at Wembley. That's where he's going to give him his final punishment and obviously take the title.
A taco and a pole match.
I mean, Phil, stop making a great match even better. Yeah, like you don't need real glass, you need real tacos.
Cry me a river.
Brian Keith.
Cry me a taco.
Brian Keith and Katsuyori Shibata. Chris Jericho's on commentary, so I watched this on mute. Keith attacks right from the off, but Shibata just targets the arm, is just determined to get this arm submission on Brian Keith. They fly to the floor, where yet again, I feel like I want to draw attention to this because I was picky with it at SummerSlam. You know, the running into the post as a way to like change the direction of the match.
Yeah.
There's a barricade on the show, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every match went to the floor. Every match went to the barricade. Agents speak to each other. This is like a lost art in pro wrestling. Have chance. Put the little sign on the wall. Like nobody go near the Spanish table. Nobody else use the barricade.
Yeah.
It matters. It means something. But anyway, they do it all the same. Shibata's just zeroing in constantly on Brian Keith's arm. We come back after a commercial break, and Keith manages to get a little bit of offense, hits him with the backbreaker of Fireman's carry, but ultimately Shibata gets on the cross-arm breaker and Brian Keith is forced to tap. After the bell, the learning tree running and beat down Shibata. Should point out at this stage, by the way, that on commentary before I muted, I was made aware that Taz had been booted off the table by Chris Jericho thanks to his relationship with the Elite. More on that power struggle later on. And that's maybe why we weren't going to be made aware by Taz that Hook has recovered from the fireball attack. He makes his return. He chases off the learning tree. He makes a save for Shibata. The learning tree decide discretion is the better part of valor despite the 3-on-2 advantage. And more teases that the 3-on-3 at Wembley, Sidge has pitched, and I think this is the move, like a stadium stampede, 4-on-4, if the Joe is able to work it and the babyfaces and heels can find another partner. Maybe it's just a 3-on-3. It's happening, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think of this? We don't really talked at length about this, certainly in this studio. What do you make of the learning tree and all of this going into Wembley?
I am not a fan of the learning tree.
What?
Funnily enough. Yeah. I like that Brian Keith is getting on TV. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this sort of version of Chris Jericho stuff. It's like he's made me laugh a couple of times in it, but I don't care about it enough to actually want to pay attention to it week to week on TV. It's not making me want to tune in next week to see what Chris Jericho does. It's not giving me any of those vibes. The match itself was, it was fine, but it was, again, another one that was more about the post-match stuff than it was about the actual match itself. I liked that Brian Keith tapped out super quick to the armbar. Like, I like it when people do that, when you actually make a move legitimate, like, well, I'm screwed, I've got to get out of it.
And he had it worked on the hook, so it was already a weakened limb. Shibata's strategy worked.
So I like that. I like the return of Hook. It's like, I'm ready for them to get to the end of this and move on from it.
It's a rematch, I think. I'm pretty sure they've had the 3-on-3. I might have been at Forbidden Door, in fact. So it might have even been like the last pay-per-view. So we've had that, but I guess it keeps Jericho out of other people's way, and we should just be grateful for that, you know.
Like, it's experience for Hook, I guess.
Yeah, there's an emerging, it's funny you say about it's not the sort of stuff that keeps you tuned in. There's an emerging meme where people upload a video of them switching Dynamite off as Chris Jericho appears on screen. Like, well, that's enough for me. I keep seeing those every week, so more of that. It's quite funny.
That's enough TV time.
Yeah. We go back to Orange Cassidy, who was with Renee Paquette. Renee Paquette notes, following on from a Tony Khan tweet, should have maybe said at the top of the episode, that there'd been a bunch of travel issues getting into North Carolina that had, there was no major changes to the planned stuff for the night that had been previously advertised, but I guess you have to include Rampage in that, and certain roster members weren't able to make it, and that unfortunately included the conglomeration that left Orange Cassidy all alone, because he was set to take on Roosh, the Beast Mortos, and Roderick Strong, but Orange Cassidy revealed that he'd found a couple of locals that were just fancying a fight, so they'd join him at ringside. Renee said, let her know if he needs any help with anything else, and she was like, well, do you want to be a wrestler? She said, not that. We go then.
I like the dynamic between Renee and
it's
Orange
magic,
Cassidy.
isn't it?
It's so good.
It's lovely that they've carried it on from when he was knackered and tired. And like, I know, but now they're just mates, even in the good times too.
Renee's so good at this.
Speaking of pretty cool dynamics with Renee Paquette, I've always really enjoyed hers with Hangman Page, even when he was feuding with John Moxley, obviously, and the fact that, trying to be a good guy. He is no longer trying to be a good guy. He is an angry man. He was speaking with her in an interview from earlier in the day where he said, look, I made it perfectly clear I was back to kick Swerve Strickland's ass, but dumbasses keep getting in the way. And it's about time he did something to do it. He pledges yet again to get his revenge on Swerve Strickland for everything and indeed anybody in his path. And at this point, we can add that it wasn't just Tony Storm and Mariah May that were brawling backstage. It was Hangman Page and Jeff Jarrett. This feels as good a time to talk about it as any. Amidst
like you ever need a time to talk about Jeff Jarrett.
Amidst all of my fantasy booking that Hangman Page might get carried to a classic by Jeff Jarrett at Wembley, it appears that if they're not going to be in a singles match, they might be included in a match that was advertised via graphic on this show, and a kick-ass one in the process. For my money, AEW's best stipulation of this year, the Casino, I always forget what it's called, Gauntlet, the Casino Gauntlet, which is there, Royal Rumble 1-4 to a finish, guys keep coming until it's over match, has been announced for Wembley. I put this on X this morning. The singles match is made if you want to do it. Hangman Page and Jeff Jarrett is ready to go. But my argument would be hoy them in this, because the winner of that match gets a shot at the world title, presumably following Darby's shot at Grand Slam. So that, they're forming like an orderly queue for the title. But I would have it all the wrestlers scatter off and be left in the ring with these two. And Hangman finally has an opportunity to get his title shot. And then what tension that throws into the main event, where he's kind of rooting for Swerve to win and retire Bryan. Otherwise, he's yet again lost his chance to get to Swerve Strickland. The drama of Hangman getting that win, like in that match, I think would be fantastic for the main event. And I just love it for how fun the match would be and how you can throw a bunch of guys out there who aren't necessarily involved in something big, getting at least a chance to do one of their cool spots and an entrance pop, as you pointed out, at an awesome stadium for them to get that moment.
Yeah, it's the WrestleMania idea of put something on there, like the Andre Battle Royale or something.
Yeah.
It's something, or when they did the big multi-man ladder matches there. It's something to get a bunch of people on the card that might not have necessarily been on it and give everyone that WrestleMania moment, but at All In. So that Wembley moment, I guess.
High stakes.
Yeah, definitely. And just to get everyone, especially the way they format it, everyone will get an entrance, like a Royal Rumble style thing, but 30 seconds of an entrance or whatever, a shortened entrance, but they'll still get their own moment. And it's just nice to give people stuff like that. And especially on the All In card, there's a lot of singles matches. Something else like this is something completely different that'll stand out and break up the card a little bit, which I think they will really need on the night. So yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. The sort of Hangman dynamic of him desperately trying to get back to Swerve and then things just being thrown in the mix that just gets in his way is kind of AEW at its best storytelling wise. Yeah. Like that's the good stuff. You have a destination, but you also have a lot of ways you can go before you get to that, and it's still compelling TV. Yeah. And that's AEW at its best storyline wise.
I agree. I think it feels to me, honestly, like the polar opposite to last year's Wembley in that regard. All the multi-mans or multi-persons last year, because the women's title was a 4-way as well, felt like this made Wembley feel like an obligation. And maybe, I know we were kind of, I guess UK fans collectively were kind of aggravating maybe American fans who couldn't understand why it was going to be as big as it was, maybe until they could see it and knew that, no, it just so happens the biggest show this company will do is in our country. It's not biased towards a UK show. It's Wembley. It's going to be bigger than anything they've ever done. Yeah. This year it's totally flipped. Like the if this is going to be obviously Hangman and Jarrett, but whoever's in it, this multi-man match is almost like an outlier. It's got massively high stakes. The winner gets a number one contenders match, gets a shot at the title. But as you say, the presentation of it is going to be great for everybody. It's actually going to be really fun rather than feeling like an inconvenience. And everybody else on the show is involved in something huge to them. Yeah. Even the tags and trios feuds are coming together quite nicely. Title fights, the biggest matches that you can offer, the Britt Baker's Mercedes, that kind of thing. Yeah. The only multi-man at present that feels like it's there to get everybody else on the card is massive on its own terms. Yeah. It's a total reverse from last year.
Yeah, and it's not it is to get everyone on the card, but that's the gimmick of the match. It's not just something thrown together in order to get people on the card. It's a match that has a gimmick and a structure that you're just taking and putting on that just happens to have the byproduct of being able to get loads of people on the card.
It's the kind of match, especially if it was to go on first, that if you're going to All In, you probably want to get in your seat right at bell time. Yeah. So I'll be going to All In. I can't wait. You're going to All In. I'm probably with the show. The Wembley doors are probably open at 3:00. Yeah. I'm probably going to get there on that day at 5 to 3. Getting there as quick as I can. Yeah. Is that what you're going to do?
No, actually.
Why?
I'm going to go to the WhatCulture live show.
What?
2 minutes down
When's
the road.
this happening? I know nothing of this. I should be involved realistically.
You really love this bit.
This bit doesn't work.
You just love it.
Fundamentally, at its core, it's never worked. But we're stuck with it now.
WhatCulture.com/tickets at the Crystal Club, 2 minutes away from Wembley Stadium. You can literally come here and just wander off down the road whenever you feel like it. We're doing a show at midday. It's going to end at about 1:30, and then it's going to be an extended hangout and meet and greet thing. You can have a drink, you can get some food, and then whenever you're ready, you can just toddle off to Wembley Stadium to watch All In. I'm going
to use this opportunity, by the way, to say happy birthday to Adam Wilborn, who is enjoying his birthday off today. I know he was gutted to not be able to review this Dynamite, but he'd be even more gutted if he was going to miss his opportunity to host Sweet Chin Disco, along with Prince Nana, along with Max Caster, along with some other special guests he keeps talking about that we can't talk about. But tickets are very, very limited. Get them now. Follow Sweet Chin Disco on socials. Search their website for ticket information. Back at the Crystal Club again.
Not many tickets left.
The short walk we've made to Wembley after the live show is the same one you can make back. A full day around Wembley with us, with Sweet Chin Disco. It's going to be absolutely awesome, isn't it? And you know what else was pretty awesome? Seeing FTR come out in the denim jackets and the glasses with Orange Cassidy.
They did look the part.
I always think whenever Orange Cassidy has new mates of Sidgwick's bit where it's him and them, because Orange Cassidy is this guy that they kind of lean on to put people with when it looks weird. Yeah. But I get why they do it, because it is just quite nice, isn't it? The locals that he has found are FTR, who haven't really been on Dynamite much of late, and that's been kind of a point of contention between them and the Acclaimed when it comes to who's going to get the shot against the Young Bucks at Wembley. But yes, it was Orange Cassidy and FTR. They were the men stepping in against Roosh, the Beast Mortois, and Roderick Strong. The Kingdom were there alongside Roderick Strong as well. We get a fairly fast start where Roosh and Harwood are doing back and forth stuff, and Roosh and the Beast Mortois do sort of a drop toe hold tag team basement dropkick thing on Dax. But then everybody gets back up. Roderick Strong is taken into the heel corner where FTR do their own version of it to prove, no, we're the real tag team in this. Harwood gets quite a nice snap suplex. All the heels are sent to the floor before the ad break in order for Orange Cassidy and FTR to do the pockets spot with FTR using their trunks as pockets. We come back
Dax could not get his, he tried to get it. He was too tight or something. He got his fingertips in there and he just couldn't do it. It just looked so strange.
Campaign for future people that are going minute impromptu team with Orange Cassidy to have little pockets sewn into their tights to allow them to do this. We come back from the break.
Should definitely do that.
Yeah, it'd be great, wouldn't it? Like pockets in trunks. There you go, Dax. If Brett was in this match, he'd have thought ahead and got some pockets in it. It's not just about shades, mate. Cash Wheeler's been...
He popped his collar. What more do you want from him?
Yeah, I suppose. I'll allow that. Cash Wheeler's been attacked when we come back from the break, but he's able to power out of the heel corner. Hot tags in Dax Harwood, who manages to beat up everybody and hits a spine buster on the Beast Mortos. He goes up to the top, but Roderick Strong pulls him off and nails him with the sick kick, which makes a bit of space for Beast Mortos to knock Dax to the floor. Coming back from another break, Dax is in there with Roosh and he's fighting back. Obviously, the heels have had the advantage during the break and makes a big hot tag at last to Orange Cassidy. All gets a bit quicker from there. It's all in. It's the usual sort of six-man trio style AEW brawl, leading to a spinning tornado DDT, I think it was, on the Beast Mortos. Roosh tries to get the dropkick on Dax Harwood, but it's all broken down by this point. And the Shatter Machine on Roosh, I think it was. Yeah, it was Roosh. Shatter Machine on Roosh gets the win for OFTR, as they were called by Excalibur, which Don Callis was there again on commentary. It's easy to forget that Roosh is also a member of the Don Callis family. He's none too pleased that Roosh has been beat. Post-match, as the babyfaces celebrate, it's cut off by the Acclaimed. Max Caster goes to rap, and his microphone is cut off. Now, it was hard to tell and discern if this was an accident or part of the story, but you could understand it being part of the story because Dax goes to say, look, everybody's tired of you talking. Nobody wants to hear you talk. And then seems to start one of his, I don't know much about talking, but I love AEW. But then his mic is working, but he's just like, I don't like to talk, let's fight. And then just sort of throws the mic away.
Yeah.
And there's a pull apart that security doesn't quite look ready for. Seemingly because Dax had stuff that he was supposed to say. But anyway, they have the pull apart with security, and it's like Dax and the Acclaimed, Dax, Freudian slip. FTR and the Acclaimed are both obviously contesting. At some point, they're going to have a match for the contention, even though the Acclaimed already have it. Phil, this is confusing.
It is very confusing. And I think this is I don't know if it's just me getting jaded, but like I might be done with the just random like multi-man tag matches in general. Like I love a good spot fest schmoz match, and like if I was live in that building, this is exactly the kind of match I would want to be watching because like it doesn't matter, you can just get involved with it because it's just like smash mouth super fast action and it's just fun. But like the lack of maybe it was just a thing about the travel situation and that it didn't have as much story in it that it potentially could have.
Conglomeration have had some really fun multi-mans.
Yeah, but I just find myself not caring about it.
Went quite long for that. It went like 18 minutes, and that's a lot for a TV match.
And it's like there was nothing wrong with it.
No.
Like, it was a good match, but I've seen them all before many times, and I just maybe I'm just getting old and I'm done with it.
Good matches alone are not enough anymore. Are they, as well?
I need to care. This is when I realize that maybe I'm a story guy in wrestling these days. I need something attached to it to actually make me care.
Don't mind hearing that. Speaking of a massive...
The after stuff though was super strange.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was promos. Weird.
Like the way Max sold it that it wasn't working. Like he was obviously selling that it wasn't working. Yeah. But it also felt like maybe he is annoyed that it's not working. And then it would have been fine if Dax's promo was coherent, logical, and succinct, or like it felt like it had a point. It was just the way he started something and then immediately changed his mind and went, "Oh, I'm not as eloquent as you. Let's fight."
Yeah,
it was like, "Oh, what is going on here? Is it a mistake? Is it fine? Was Dax trying to cover for the microphone not working, or was that
the vibe was weird, wasn't it?
It was none of it. It was all a bit disjointed, and I don't quite know what happened there.
We'll probably get this contenders match. As I say, even though the Acclaim don't need one, they're the number one contender. So that's still like a plot hole. I sense AEW will work to fix it, but it feels like a plot hole. And you sense that it's going to be a three-way anyway.
It's another thing I think that's missing any kind of recap on Dynamite of the things that are happening on Collision. Like only watching Dynamite, you wouldn't have a clue what FDR were doing.
Kind of calling them out from the Saturdays.
Yeah, would not have a goddamn clue, and it was not explained on commentary.
Well, like, we could go to sort of the same but different. This was a good promo, but we might be encountering the exact same situation here. We see the patriarchy falling afoul of both the House of Black with the returning Buddy Matthews and the Bing Bing Ging, who kind of like trapped the the patriarchy and sent them packing as they were celebrating becoming the new Trios champions. The Trios champions, of course, being Christian Cage, Nick Wayne, and Nick Wayne's mom, because Killswitch doesn't get a belt of his own.
Before we get into it, the Bang Bang Gang is now my girlfriend's favourite stable, even though she has never seen what they look like, does not know who they are. She just heard the name and thought it was really cute. So now
do not disagree.
Favourite stable.
Great taste, as usual. So Christian is with the rest of the patriarchy, and he says there's going to be a match between the Bang Bang Gang and the House of Black on Collision that will determine who will be the number one contenders, but not any number one contenders. These winners will go on to face them at All in Wembley. So, a trios title match determined. But he says, the way they were behaving on Collision was unruly. They were in desperate need of a father figure, and he will be that father figure. He is going to be the guest referee, amazing, isn't it? Guest referee for this tag team match. And this is my point, building off the back of the segment we've just seen. It seems like you can take an educated guess that this will probably be a three-way. Mm-hmm. Christian will attempt to do something to screw them both, fail in his plan, and both teams will get the shot.
Yeah.
But that also feels like that's what we're doing in the tag program.
Yeah.
So they've got to kind of work to potentially differentiate these things at this point.
Yeah, I hadn't actually thought about that watching it, but yeah, you're exactly right. Like
maybe not. Like I'm just saying, it just sort of feel like in both cases you've set up two pairs of challengers that both have like a right to the shot, and heels that are probably trying to avoid both.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, maybe you just don't put FDR on Wembley card. I mean, danger.
Hey, Phil, I ain't no video editor, but you need to put together some Dax bits.
I like the Christian bit, though, because, like, what I've been saying about the sort of lack of cohesion between Dynamite and Collision, like, at least he explained what was going on in Collision. Yeah. He explained a thing that will be happening on Collision. He gave you a reason to watch Collision. Like,
no surprise from an old pro.
Exactly. That's how you do a wrestling promo of, here's a thing that's happened, here's a thing that's going to happen, here's where you can watch it. Like, that's the point of a wrestling promo. It's promotion for another thing.
I think.
So yeah, that was classic, just old pro doing good wrestling things.
And the relief that they've got the belts that guarantees that he's on the card.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the guys, like all the best of the challengers, but it's him I'd want to see back at Wembley again. So yeah. Speaking of videos of people on Collision, so you might have really appreciated this if you've heard us all waxing lyrical in the office. We got a video package next on Hologram, who's been making waves. He's kind of one of my new favorite wrestlers, a wrestler that, again, the Casino Gauntlet feels set up for Hologram to get a big entrance and just wow the crowd in, even if it's just a 30-second sequence before the next guy comes out. Seems perfectly placed because everything he's been doing on Collision, I've been reviewing in either Sidgwick or Wilborn's absence, and he's become like a must-watch wrestler for me in 3 weeks. Hell of a start for him so far.
Yeah, not watched a single match.
Honestly,
I'll put it out there.
I go out of your way to watch wrestler, but especially watch his match with the Beast Mortuos.
I see. I genuinely forgot about him until this promo on Dynamite, because it was like, obviously there was the like build-up promos, and there was like a bit of like, oh, who is this? And then it like got announced who it was. And then I'd completely forgotten about him because they haven't talked about him on Dynamite, really.
Yeah,
And then this is like the promo package. But again, like you need these things to make people aware of what's going on Collision to be like, oh, maybe I should go and watch that because there's this crazy high-flying guy that I want to check out.
It certainly helps that the first video, which I think did air on Dynamite as well as Collision, was just of him running through like a vortex.
Yeah.
But now he's got this match footage, so they're kind of backing it up. They're saying it wasn't just hype, it wasn't just this sort of video. Wrestling can lie to you through videos, but now he's having the matches. Yeah. So there's the real footage, I think, really helps, doesn't it?
But now I've seen that, I'll actually go check him out, because it's like I'd genuinely completely forgotten that he even existed.
There you go. They're getting that right, at least. Right. So, second women's match. Big positive. Third week in a row, I think we've had two women's matches on Dynamite. I know that sounds like low bar stuff, but it's been the thing that I think everybody's been shouting about for years. Representation, parity, and all that sort of thing. And I think it's definitely helped that, regardless of what you think of Mercedes Moné's performances so far, and we're going to get onto another divisive one after this match. The fact that her stories feel important, but she's not the AEW Women's Champion. She's the TBS champion, but because she's not the AEW Women's Champion, it's kind of forcing her hand to have two, which is something she said she wanted when she signed. So good that that's being followed through on. And potentially it's getting Camille over, because having won a squash against one wrestler last week, she this week won one against two.
She's getting the Ryback treatment.
Indeed. This like very old school, like keep lining them up, I'll keep knocking them down. It was Clara Carter and Jasmine Howe that were basically there to just be destroyed and dismantled by Camille. She just takes no time at all. Even at one point she had one on her back, she was able to just like throw them both into each other. Hits that like torture rack bomb she does, and like pretty cool looking dominator to get the win. Camille pins them both just to sort of like, you know, put a finer point on it. Gets the win in no time at all, something like a minute and a half. I
really like that sort of the visual of her with one of them on the back, like kicks the other one down into the corner and then just hurls the other one into it. It just looked great.
That's it. Yeah, they're throwing them into the corner. It's like, oh, your body has just attacked that body. Not my problem. You're just like stacking them up like cordwood, as JR used to say. So yeah, that was the easy squash for Camille. And that hands over to Mercedes Moné to talk again about her match with Britt Baker at Wembley. Right, this is where it got a bit weird. So she first says, she goes, I'm here in North Carolina to try and get the cheap bot, but says, sorry, North Carolina, don't waste your breath chanting for DMD because she's not here. I think this was to get the DMD chant, but none was forthcoming. It's always really awkward, isn't it? None was forthcoming. And she yet again thanks the EVPs, her friends, the Young Bucks, for suspending Britt Baker, and then reveals that she's in fact suspended all the way until All In. She says to Camille, how sweet is that? And then Camille sort of deadpans, very sweet. This was weird, but I'm going to let it play out because they might have been trying, remember the old Christian Tomko dynamic? Where they were like, give me a beat, big man. No. Like Camille's delivery was so sort of like off kilter that maybe they're going to get this. Like there's a Wardlow MJF quality to it, you know, Sean and Diesel, all the templates that you all know of. Maybe that'll get over. It was weird on night one.
It's the weird dynamic of saying, how sweet is it in a wrestling context when everyone's mind immediately goes to too sweet. And she's like, very sweet.
Yeah. Like, was she not fed the line?
Something off.
We'll see how that plays out, I guess. But again, the second part of the same, where it's like the fans aren't really with this. And then she kind of goes back on herself. She's like, I hate to be the one to break it to you, but the DMD is not here. It's like, we already knew that. But let's talk about the DMD. And at this point, I'm thinking, have you forgotten Britt Baker's name? She keeps calling her the DMD. She says...
She just got excited about saying letters.
Yeah, she loves saying letters. She's the DMD is the first woman signed. Very impressive. The DMD is the first, but she's never been the best. She's got 2 titles to prove that she is the best. And All In, obviously, she'll prove it once again. Right. Let me just get my AEW hierarchy of authority figures out here. Tony Schiavone has a message from Christopher Daniels, who has a message from Tony Khan that he's overruled the Young Bucks and Britt Baker is no longer suspended. What are we doing here?
But she's not on the show.
No.
But she is live via satellite.
What was Blood and Guts / Anarchy in the Arena / the entire story for if a commentator can reveal an assistant to the regional manager can reveal one boss has overruled another boss? Is that not just, could that just not be every match?
Yeah.
Like when a bad thing happens as a result of the Elite, why is Tony Khan not overruling all of it?
Yeah.
This story is
And if he is going to overrule it, why isn't it just Tony Khan has told me that she's not? And it's what's with the Christopher Daniels and like the in-betweeners? What's with the middlemen?
I am not trying to incite a culture war here. Rightfully so, WWE would be savaged for this kind of laziness, this kind of creative shortcut stuff.
Yeah.
And they often are, as they should be. Like, if you hold them to any kind of standard at all, and for the longest time, we held AEW to a substantially higher standard than WWE.
Yeah.
It struck me, following this week's Raw, that this plot point was kind of like unacceptably poor from a creative standpoint.
It felt like, it was bad creative. I don't know how much of this is tied into the Britt Baker suspension, because obviously that went down and that's changed plans of how to do this
slightly. For 2 weeks.
But it was 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like they played it off last week, fine. Like with the sort of Mercedes Moné getting her suspended thing, fine. But then like this week, as we were kind of almost expecting her to not be on TV, to then do the switch around of the suspension to reverse it, to then only have her on live via satellite or like a recorded video, like none of that fits in. Like if it's actually been reversed and she's here in the building and then she comes out, that'd be one thing. But the live via satellite was like, you've got this big build up to a weird payoff to then even have an even weirder payoff for the payoff. Yeah,
the anemic reaction was no good for the feud or Brit. But then we've been in buildings and it's like, and now we go to the video screen. It is, you're taking something away, in a sense, aren't you? Because the name gets announced and it's like...
If they'd done that Tony Schiavone bit and then... Or if Tony Schiavone had come out on the stage and said that, and then the Britt Baker music hits, that would have been a much better moment. even with the exact same story.
Yeah. It was tough. I guess you're probably right. They're in I was really overcome with how annoying it was to hear all the multiple authority figures just disagreeing and debating with each other. But that's a good point about that as well. This was sort of set up to fail a little bit. And Britt Baker's video promo, as you say, from Satellite link up wasn't bad as far as these go. She said Mercedes can run and she can get her bodyguard and she can get her suspended, but she can't stop her. Britt Baker said she was all in, and she's still that. When she makes a commitment to something, she sees it all the way through. Unlike Mercedes Moné, the second things don't go her way. She takes her ball and goes home.
WWE reference.
Yeah, that gets the noise in the building. Wrestlers love take your ball and go home, don't they? They absolutely love it. Steve Austin leaving in 2002 broke a lot of wrestling brains, didn't it? What was she saying? Yeah. AEW to Mercedes is just a flavour of the month, whereas for Britt Baker, it's home. She can walk her walk, she can talk her talk, she can spend all her money, but all of this will end at All In. Britt Baker will be the first female in AEW to defeat her. And in the meantime, Mercedes Moné has a week to think about... Britt Baker has a week to decide exactly how she's going to get her hands on her. She'll figure out a way. Trust her. She's a doctor. She's not just any doctor. She's Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. And Mercedes Moné is like, oh no, I've got a week to kind of get ready for this.
Got a week to think about it. Think about my actions.
I say this every week, right? And I'm getting to the point now where I hear myself saying it and I realise maybe the take is getting too generous. This is the match you book. This is the graphic you flash up.
100%.
Your biggest star you've ever created versus your biggest star you've ever signed. Should they have just waited till 2 weeks before Wembley to bring Britt Baker, bring Britt Baker back, or what? Because I don't know ultimately how. I don't know. You book this match. I don't know how you book it. If you do what they've done, you then have several weeks, and it feels like the story's running out of road. But you absolutely have to do this match.
Yeah.
If you do it with 2 weeks out, you get dickheads like me on the internet complaining about the opposite. Why have we only got 2 weeks to get excited for this? You absolutely book it. I don't know how I would have done this, and I think that's why it feels like it's not quite connecting the way it should.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe, this is me wildly speculating, obviously, but maybe they were worried that Britt Baker's reaction with the crowd might have changed after the news that came out with the suspension and stuff.
Oh, and that's why she was...
And that's why they kind of held back, and that's why Mercedes Moné was really hammering the DMD because they really wanted to get that DMD chant going in the crowd before the thing. And even with Britt Baker with the DMD at the end, the crowd joined in for it, but it didn't then continue into a chant. It was just the DMD kind of done. And it's maybe this is just me completely overthinking it, that they were worried about what reaction the crowd would have.
Maybe, yeah.
Because
the AEW crowd is plugged in. They know that stuff. They react in the way that nobody does when Punk drops a Jungle Boy thing. Yeah. And the WWE crowd, what?
Yeah.
Get back to talk about Seth Rollins, please. In AEW, they know. The fans are kind of into that sort of stuff, yeah.
So maybe that's me reading too much into a situation. But yeah, I mean, like you say, it's definitely the match you do. It's the match, at least in my head, I immediately went to when they announced, when we first thought of Mercedes Moné going into AEW, you start thinking about the dream matches and you go straight to Britt Baker. It's that. The AEW's the first star they hung the women's division hat on at the very beginning to one of the probably the biggest signing from WWE women's division wise they could hope for. And that's 100% the match you go for. And just the build is falling flat. Mercedes has priors of having a build that falls flat and then absolutely having an incredible match and an incredible moment.
Yeah, the Bianca Belair 37 main event.
That was absolute balls, but that moment when they got in the ring, that felt like a main event immediately, and they paid it off in that match big time.
Sort of inadvertently, booking makes a lot of people forget, and we're all guilty of this, that she is one of the best in the whole world. Yeah,
absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I think we'll get a similar moment in All In when it's going to be her first big match.
She knows what she's doing in that setting as well.
Exactly.
She fills stadiums with her presence, doesn't she?
She knows what she's doing.
Aye.
They've still got time. They could still turn this around.
I think it needs something for TV. Yeah. But it comes with the caveat that I have absolutely no doubt about the match on the night.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that maybe television doesn't need a little something. Yeah. And obviously Camille exists for the Jamie Hayter thing, so they've even included that at the right time, and they're allowing people to speculate and get excited for that return. I have nothing but good vibes to the match on the night. Yeah. It's just weird getting there.
Yeah.
There's a video on where we're at with Brian and Swerve, and it makes me realise I've missed out my notes, but there was a sit-down with Swerve Strickland and Jim Ross earlier in the show. And it was basically just Jim Ross asking Swerve Strickland Is he ready for Bryan Danielson? How does he feel about how he's got to this point? Alluding to without outright saying, you invaded somebody's home and threatened their baby.
You beat were a bit of a twat, guy.
Blooded up Nick Wayne in his dead father's ring and all that. You've been the worst guy. And Swerve saying, yep, and I've learned a lot on the way, but I don't regret it because it got me to where I am. I'm the top guy. People should fear me. Jim Ross, with reverence to Swerve Strickland, nonetheless says, and he was great in this, by the way. I hope Jim Ross is doing well. He didn't necessarily look physically at his best. We know what he's going through. Shout out to JR, but there's nobody better for the gravitas of a situation like these sit-down interviews. Still even
before he starts talking, the moment you see him sat down with someone, it has
authority,
that impact.
Doesn't it? Yeah. And again, somebody who Swerve can respect to be sitting opposite to. Perfect for that. And Swerve says, look, he saw Daniel Bryan kicking people's teeth out and holding them up to the camera. He saw that while sat on his couch and he thought, I want to do that too. But as soon as he got the opportunity to do it, he realised that there was nothing to fear because he's Swerve Strickland. And it's not about if he can beat Bryan Danielson, it's about that he will.
Yeah, I really like this. I thought the initial Swerve Strickland face turn was super strange.
Yes.
It worked and they ran with it and it was okay, but he went from doing the most heinous things you can imagine on TV to all of a sudden weeks later being a babyface, and it was
a solid guy.
Yeah, it was really strange. But this, I think, informed the character a lot more than anything they've done up to this point, in the terms of, he won't apologize for that. That was just unfortunate thing that I just had to do in order to get where I am. The whole, you've got to knock doors down and make a noise to get noticed. And that was he did it. He's not apologizing for it. He's owning it, which ties into him being a babyface, but also he's there's still underneath all that is that mean guy.
He's a dangerous man.
Capable of doing that.
Yeah.
And that's informing the character then going forward. So he can be this kind of grey area babyface that people love and get on board with, but he's got a dark side.
There is no I'm sorry, I love you if he's retiring Bryan Danielson. He doesn't feel what Shawn Michaels did for Ric Flair. He will just do
and kicks him in the face.
Yeah. I love the contrast, as you point out as well, as he's become this proper talismanic babyface world champion. I love the contrast of him being able to just be, I did it, and I own it, but on to the next thing, able to brush off, whereas that he's brushing off has become the obsession that is ruining Hangman Page's life. Such a perfect contrast of how these two are back on their collision course.
Yeah.
On this very episode and every single week, Swerve continues to drive a storyline that he's not even in, which is Hangman Page's road to him.
Which will only make Hangman Page get worse because he's being ignored
by
the one person
with
who you need your attention.
Yeah, it's great stuff. What could also be great stuff, and again, this could factor into Wembley, it could factor into the Casino Gauntlet, I don't know, but they showed highlights of Claudio winning a three-way on Collision, which earned him the right to have a shot at Kazuchika Okada's Continental title. They'll have a face-to-face next week. It wasn't a match. It's a version of a contract signing, an excuse to put them together in the ring. But again, only weeks out from Wembley, this could be to build a work rate title fight for Okada at Wembley, or they could have the match on Dynamite and throw them both in the gauntlet.
Yeah.
You got a preference there, or?
I have no idea. I mean, I'd love to see Okada versus Claudio in a match, at all, because that's crazy work.
Two people
it's
you put
going to
next
be
to each
absolutely
other
amazing,
in a
100%. But then at the same time, the All-In card's getting busy. It's getting long, and we know Tony Khan loves a long pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But it's kind of getting there, and when you have that, is it going to get lost in the shuffle on a card like All In, where you're not going to be able to give it 20, 25 minutes or something, and it's going to get 10 or 15, and will that be the same thing of what we want? Or is it worth putting them both in the gauntlet thing to then do that at All Out later on?
That's true.
Where you can make a big deal out of it and put a much bigger focus on it.
They are measuring what feels like an all-out card that could be headlined by Swerve and Hangman really well this year, as opposed to last year when it felt like we were being sacrificed for a card in Chicago 7 days later. The 2-week break plus the construction of the All-In card has given me hope that they've kind of nailed it this year. And that is a great example of what they could do, where they could save the singles match.
And that's what the gauntlet match is perfect for. You've got a feud that you can't quite pay off here because it's not time, it's a bit full. You can put them in there, you can continue it in order to get to that singles
Claudio
match
could have had the win,
thing.
but then Okada pulls him out, and
there's loads you can do.
I'm into that. and I was into what came next. It's Bryan Danielson versus Jeff Jarrett, and this is pretty cool. You talk about sometimes matches going a little bit too long, and do you want to see wrestling matches? Well, luckily this ended after 1 second and it got 5 stars because Bryan Danielson makes his way onto the stage and Jeff Jarrett smashes him with a guitar. Dynamite goes off the air. Great week. Thanks very much for joining us. Well, apparently there was more. It must have been an overrun.
There was. I think they went to attack a balcony or something, maybe.
Yeah.
Like
they realised
the show switched off.
Realised the show had peaked. This is kind of like DVD extra, the rest of the match.
This will sell tacos.
Ricky Steamboat, I should point out, was out on commentary and was immediately saying, well, that's Jeff Jarrett. That's kind of on you, Brian, for not realising this guy's the biggest bastard in the industry ever. This is what he does. And the story is obviously from the build-up that Jeff Jarrett is trying to see, is Danielson ready? Can he really still go? Is his head already gone? Well, he was going to make him fight for this one. Yeah, so he smashed him in the back with a guitar. He's screaming at him, kicks Danielson down at the ring, gets him in the ring, clotheslines him immediately to the floor, starts battering him back on the floor, throws him into the barricade. The fight goes off into the crowd. It's an arena brawl for a bit, and then they kind of do it's that lovely Memphis concession stand stuff where they go into the crowd where you can get your merch and your snacks. Maybe you can buy tacos, but they're just surrounded by people. It's that fantastic visual.
I love this as well because they did the suplexes onto the bin.
Yeah.
And then Jarrett was doing it, and then you get the reversal. Well, you do it to me, I'll do it to you thing. But then as Jarrett was beating up Bryan, he kept on hitting him and pushing him, but then the crowd would push him back in.
So you wanted to be there,
every time he gets into the thing, and he'd get nudged back in, and it was like they were encouraging them to keep pushing him back in, to keep getting hit. It was such a good little moment.
It's I love that and hate the feeling in equal measure when I wish I was in a crowd, because obviously it comes with sickening envy. But it was that feeling where God, I'd give anything. I'd be racing to the stands to just be a part of that while these two are brawling. No give on that bin. It was a shoot bin, obviously. So their bodies are just folding around this solid steel bin.
One, the way Danielson bounced off it, is
you've got Wembley, mate. This is awesome. Down. However, this brawl is absolutely fantastic. So real feeling, as you say. There's a break while they kind of brawl back down through the stands and in towards the ring. But at this point, Jarrett has acquired a chair and he's just targeting the knee, potentially to set up the figure 4, just drilling him with the steel chair. Danielson's able to push him away, throw him to the floor and hits him with the suicide dive. But we get back up and we get into the ring, and Jarrett, again, laser focused on the knee at this point. Gets a few more chair shots in, but then Danielson managed to grab the chair, hit the chair with his own. He's getting in the muck with Jeff Jarrett now. He's realising what's required of him here. And a big suplex sets up a vicious dropkick on Jeff Jarrett. At this point, Danielson goes for the yes kicks. Each time he's kind of selling how much the knee's hurting, but he's drilling him with the kicks all the same. But then Jarrett grabs one and sort of snakes him into the figure 4 leg lock. Danielson is able to reach for the chair to break that up, so Jarrett switches into a sharpshooter. Oh my God. It's I couldn't win the Owen, but I'll do this for Owen. So Danielson yet again is in trouble.
The way Danielson gets out of it.
Oh my God, he reverses the sharpshooter into the lapel lock. And you didn't see that coming, did you, Jarrett? Because it's not your move. Don't be a submission specialist against a submission specialist. Jarrett eventually manages to get out of that, and at this point it's just an absolute slugfest. And then Bryan Danielson hits the Psycho knee with a steel chair to Jeff Jarrett's head to get the win. You brought the weapon in. I'll beat you with it. I can do everything you can do, but I can do it better. I am ready for Wembley. Such lovely, articulate storytelling in a Memphis brawl. I don't think they could have done a better job with this. Spoiler, I quite liked it. In the post-match, Ricky Steamboat goes to the ring to raise the arms of both men. There's mutual respect shown, but that's all broken up by Swerve Strickland. He looks upon the ring and he says, 3 legends of TBS wrestling: Jeff Jarrett, Ricky Steamboat, and Swerve Strickland. The difference between us and little guys like you, Brian, as he ruffles the hair, is that you've never been a world champion on this channel. Everybody else sort of gives them the ring at this point, and Swerve says, I'm not going to hesitate when I get the chance to put the kill shot on you and your career when it counts. I'm the world champion. But you've had a warm-up tonight against Jeff Jarrett. Good match. Good fight. I fancy one too. So I think I'll have one next week on Dynamite against Wheeler Yuta, who was standing there helping Brian recover, and he's like, all right, then, you want to go? We'll go right now. And so it was like, next week's fine. Danielson, why don't you come ringside to see what I do to you, boy? And Dynamite goes off the air with the two of them staring each other down. Your thoughts on that post-match, but this main event?
Good stuff. Yeah. The moment Brian came out and he got hit by the guitar. You knew exactly in that 1 second what you were in for. After that, it was just going to be a pure brawl. And it was just loads of fun. It was just a really old school fun. Like the brawling around the arena stuff was great. The bit in the crowd and by the concession stands, it was just really fun.
The vibe was right the whole time, wasn't
exactly,
it?
Yeah, they had the crowd instantly. As soon as that guitar shot hit, like the crowd didn't stop, and for the rest of the match then. The figure 4 leg lock where Brian like grabbed the chair and was like smashing the chair against not only Jarrett's legs, but like his own legs to get out of the move. And you know that plus the knees into the chair, which he drilled him with, by the way. He did not hold back on that, my word. Like Jarrett was like busted open like hard way. Like under his chin or by his ear or something, like under here. He smashed him with it. Like that plus the like figure 4 leg lock and all the knee stuff is then going to go in to inform what happens in the all-in match. Like there's no way Swerve doesn't go after the knees.
Of course,
and like Danielson loves that kind of like continuous story.
There'll be no skin for kinesio tape, will it? We look like we're wearing those like Ricochet's bodysuit, but it'll be all out of tape. Yeah.
So yeah, match was a lot of fun. Like even if it wasn't Jeff Jarrett, it would have been great.
I mean, thing is, Jeff Jarrett's the guy that's the safety net worker. Brian Danielson, he's unproven against people, you know. So it was always going to be great this Sunday, but it was just the type of great they offered you was maybe not what we would have expected.
Yes,
it was magic.
Definitely. And the post-match stuff I thought was great as well. It's again the layer of Swerve that he is the babyface still. Like you still like want to like him, but he is still underneath there. He's still got a bit of a prick.
Yeah, and he's unapologetically cold, isn't he?
And he is a killer. And he is not afraid to show it. And like the way he's working that, obviously he's going to be up against a massive babyface in Bryan Danielson, a guy who is potentially going into his last match ever. Like there's no way you're going to out babyface that. So to keep the crowd with him, and he still gets the Who's House, Swerve House chant, but without going full heel and just having that underlying tension of I'm gonna kill you. It's a great way to juxtapose the kind of pure babyface that Brian will be with the sort of weird grey area babyface that Swerve has kind of found himself in.
Oh, it's gonna be so good, isn't it? Yeah. It's a proper. This feels like the main event, doesn't it? Unequivocally, like I think it was a period, and like great, like Tony and MARIAH had such a great angle. Like I think. Is that going to outstrip these two? But I think they were just waiting to get this build going, and now they have. Yeah. It feels massive.
It's just the build of it as well as somehow even still like elevated Swerve's championship reign.
Yeah.
And just like it immediately feels like something. It's so important that like just with the fact that he's putting his career on the line against it, it's like immediately says that this is the most important thing in wrestling. But the way they have both handled it has elevated this reign a huge amount in just sort of a few weeks. Really, it's kind of impressive.
Yeah, exciting, man. 2 Dynamites till Wembley Stadium. Let us know what you thought of this week's Dynamite in the comments below. Reach out to us on Twitter if you want to talk and be nice about our review and all that good stuff at WhatCulture.com. At WhatCulture WWE on X, where you can also find Phil Chambers at
Phil My Chambers.
You can follow me at Michael Hamflett. You can follow our brilliant producer Adam Nicholas at It's Adam Nicholas. You can join all 3 of us for a very special edition of WrestleCulture tomorrow, which will be in aid of Marcel Laviolette, a fan and friend of the channel. We've shared this all on socials, but his childhood home was severely damaged by Hurricane Beryl, so we're going to do an extended WrestleCulture in Marcel's honour tomorrow. The GoFundMe link is out there, but every donation you make tomorrow will go directly to the GoFundMe, and then we're going to make a donation matching up to £300 from WhatCulture as well. So it's just going to be a big extravaganza. We're just going to fill the afternoon with nonsense, all in aid of a very, very good cause. Go to that link if you can. Obviously, you can donate whenever you want, but join us tomorrow. That's going to be loads of fun. And until next time, we will see you soon.